Okay, thank you, Stella. Look, I come from a different sort of perception. Really, Penny, you made the point before about the NDIS, and a few things have been. Sorry, we'll try again.
Loud.
Okay, Penny made the comment about the NDIS, how that's going to transform lives, and there were the other comments about having to wait for that before these things will happen. I'm not actually going to ask a question, but is it okay if I sort of make a comment and just give you a quick story?
Sure.
Okay. I've been working with, my son has a major disability, he is non-verbal, he has no speech, but he writes the most lovely poetry, and I'm actually a practising artist, and I work with him. He'll write a poem which actually is going to move on to a painting, and we'll then use the poem as expression to get the painting out. So it might take forever to actually talk about a painting, in other words, what subject you want, what do you want to do here and what's next, but rather he'll write a poem and he'll describe colour, texture, mood, feeling, and within probably 6 or 8 lines he'll actually describe what he wants to paint. We then go through the process of supporting him to do that. Another young person that I've been working with is absolutely stunning. She moved out of a secondary college and was immediately taken over by an agency. This young lady is in a wheelchair, and what they wanted to do with her was actually put her behind a desk so that she could answer the phone. They did not talk to her about what she actually wanted to be, what she wanted to do, and her mum came up to me and she said, "Les, what can we do about this? What can we do about this young woman?" We went in, we helped them to develop an individual plan. We don't have full funding for this young lady or for my son, but they're both living their lives and their dreams as artists. This young woman in the chair, I worked as a mentor. I'm actually part of an arts group in the Dandenong Ranges, and I actually invited her and encouraged her to work in my studio. She became one of the Open Studio artists. She exhibited with mainstream artists in that group, and honestly, in her first year, she actually sold more paintings on that first day than I have done probably in the last 5 years. Her work is just stunning, and it's her disability that is actually defining her art. It's the way in which she works that is absolutely stunning, and I would just say to anyone who wants to really get into the arts is to look a little bit further outside the square, draw up a plan of what you really want to do, see what your goals are, don't wait for the NDIS. If you have support in terms of support workers who are helping you do things on a daily basis, build in what you want to do and look locally, look at what is actually available in your area, look in the mainstream, because those things are there, and they really don't require grants as such, because it can be done pretty well in your own community. Thank you.
We have... Excellent. Yes, another question.
Thank you. Sorry for stealing the microphone. My name's Mara. I work at Royal Talbot Rehab Centre, and I've been managing a creative therapy service for the past 3 years. I'd like to add, in terms of the innovative thinking that I've had to develop to keep that service funded. It started off about 10 years ago through some very successful grant writing, continued for 7 odd years with potluck, good grant writing. But then when I took it over and we were living, hand to mouth kind of thing, and always at risk of the service disappearing, we developed a new business plan. And I'd like to share that with you guys, because I think we have to think beyond thinking that funding from government sources or philanthropy is our only source of funding. So that will be a key feature always of part of my strategy to keep funding this service. But, we developed an events program, so now, I have a small group of volunteers that we put on an event that raises about $18,000 a year. A lot of energy from those people going into it. Then the other phase of that is now very slowly, very patiently developing links with corporate sponsors and looking for opportunities to connect to people, to sell your story. And often it's your own users who are the people who enable you to connect to those who have capacity to give to you in whatever form that may be. It may not always be money, it may be service, it may be expertise in how to write a better grant. So it's actually three different ways. And I agree, do not wait for the NDIS. I'm a cynic. I've had to always compete with other funding within my own organisation and being in the health service. So it's not just about government funding, it's looking out there, it's looking at maybe social enterprise, creating your own funds in different ways, and looking at it as a joint effort. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that as long as we don't let the formal funding bodies off the hook, that's a good approach as well. We've got a question right up the back here. Someone who's had their hand up for a very long time. We've got a microphone for this gentleman.
Hi. Yeah, living your dreams all very good, but it doesn't pay the bills. I make art that I don't want corporations to support, and I'm not interested in being supported because of my disability. I want to be supported because I make good art. Now, with that said, I'm probably not going to get much funding. So I'm actually looking to get part-time employment to fund my art practice. Unfortunately, with my disability, I'm reliant. It's the only source of security in my life is the disability support pension, which restricts my work capacity to 15 hours a week. If I lose that financial support and lose my capacity to work, which is highly likely, then I've got nothing. So I'm just wondering, we're talking about inclusivity or whatever the word is in professional practice. How many people in the government are prepared to employ someone for 15 hours a week who think that's enough time to do a decent job?
We have plenty of people that are, a very significant part-time workforce at Arts Victoria and across, the public sector generally. There are people who work 0.4, 0.6. So I suppose what you're suggesting equates to roughly 2 days a week. It's flexible work practices are issues that don't only affect the disability sector, but others that need that flexibility for other reasons. And it's probably easier in public sector workforces than it is in the corporate sector, although the corporate sector is probably getting better at it.
I think, can I just interject, that the public sector has a role to play, and we've had some fairly public debate about that with Graham Innes and in the Human Rights Commission about setting targets, but it is leading by example in terms of employing people with disability, regardless of whether we have quotas or targets or whatever. The employment in the public sector, the national public sector, people with disabilities has dropped to 2.8%, which is pretty poor. And we all agree on that. So we have to think about ways of setting examples of employing people. And this goes to the much wider issue of equity across society for people with disabilities, not just in the arts. People have an opportunity to live their lives the way they want it without compromising themselves, their integrity, their art practice. I mean, these are all aspirations that artists have. They don't want to compromise. We want to think we're special and that our art is great and all of that sort of thing. We don't want to compromise on that, and I think we all agree on that. But we don't want to be put in a position where we compromise our health through taking in shortcuts and having problems related to our impairment. We just to be put in that position is really, really, really difficult. And I'm speaking as a person who was put in that position and did leave a career as such because of the stress and the incompatibility of the job with my impairment levels. And now I do what I do, and I'm here and there and everywhere, and part-time at this, part-time that. But I think that we really need to start thinking about access across the board, and starting now. And I think I want to just pick up on your business strategy. For a long time we've thought about, okay, as disabled artists, we don't want to think about charity. We want to move away from charity models. We're not doing the old hand in cap, which is where handicap comes from. But we need to think about partnerships, strategic partnerships where each partner has as much value as the next, and there's not an inequality. And other sectors do this really well. They do it really well. So we do have to get savvy, and that's where we do need some support, please, is getting savvy in that area so that we can be equal partners in the strategic partnerships.
There was a question from just over here. Sorry, we just need a microphone over here. Oh, here we go. Behind you, Jodie. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name's Heather and I'm deaf-blind. It's really a sort of a new experience for me to be here tonight and listening to all of your information about your different disabilities and your involvement in the arts. As a deaf-blind person, I feel our community is even more behind the times. Jodie Mundy has done some excellent work with our group using Auslan as a language that we could utilise to get engaged in arts, and we have become a little bit more involved in recent times in that. And that's been an enjoyable experience to work with Jodie and sort of be creative and a part of the arts community. Some people assume that people who are deaf or deafblind can't be involved in the arts, that we can't be, funny and have comedy in our lives and bring that into the arts sector as well. And I think that our language is the priority to giving us access to get involved in the arts.
I want to make a comment quickly. Thank you, Arts Victoria and the Australia Council for funding the only project in Australia working with 2 deafblind women. We've funded for 1 year. We're doing skills development and a creative development that we're doing at the end of the year, and it's been absolutely fascinating. So,
Yeah.
just wanted to add
Nice
to
one,
that.
Tony. That deserves a round of applause. Funding some good stuff.